Hello. No, you are not in an underground bunker. We are not at DEFCON 5. We are not in a blackout drive vehicle. We are not in the scene from Predator, that totally badass scene where they go into the South American jungle. Okay, we're not there. We are addressing the comments last night about loud birds in the background. So I uh, I have left. If you notice, if we listen for a second, we're listening for a second. These motherfucking birds are asleep because I'm gonna turn on the light. So they're asleep over there. I'm not gonna turn on the light. That way they're not freaked out. So now I can just talk as loud as I want and they're not over here like, I mean, they're going, ping pong balls up in this thing, jumping on the ropes and stuff every night that I'm keeping them up. I wasn't gonna do a live stream, but I decided to go back and watch, click into some of the videos and look at them. And I was like, what the fuck am I even talking about in these? Because I can't even remember, right? Because I'm like drinking a lot of beer and then doing these live streams. And so tonight I'm not drinking any beer. So I was like, well, I'll watch the live stream, see how they were. And I did realize, basically these live streams are for um, processing, like getting a feel on what your understanding is of the situation and your questions. And yeah, I know I am screwed. I ran out. That's the only reason. It's not. It's not that I'm going dry. It's that I ran out of beer and I don't feel like driving. So, so hey, what's up? Welcome. Okay, so hopefully this one can be a little bit more consolidated. I wanted to follow up on some points on the other live stream from last night. So we talked about a shitload of stuff, and this one's going to be pretty brief. We talked about a shitload of stuff last night, but I didn't. I jumped around on the topics so quickly that it was difficult to be cohesive, and a lot of people had questions. So it left a lot of room for improvement, as every single one of these streams has been, which is fine. Because I'm gonna do a consolidated one in chronology tomorrow night, and it'll be pretty straight down the middle and in order. And it's mostly gonna be so this whole into all of these streams this week have been focused around Jews, which is the original topic, which buffered off of COVID-19 in China, which is the direct topic. Like the direct thing is COVID-19 in China. People want to know all kinds of other stuff related to it because they want to understand the reasoning. And then thanks for coming, Sauce Boss. They want to know the reasoning behind everything. Like why are all these things happening, right? And so I'm trying to address some of that with these pre-streams every night. Um, I'm trying to address them. I'm trying to address all the questions that I can in the pre-streams to get around the bigger topic. But a lot of the things, and we'll go in the chronology tomorrow when we do a live stream tomorrow. You'll be able to get my goal is to give a solid chronology of how we fucking got here. That's my goal. My goal, and it's very strange, right? So just to explain, it's like, let me tell you what it's going to be like tomorrow. I'm going to show in a stepwise fashion, in chronological order, by approximate order of precedence of impact on the Constitution, how things change in America. That is what I'm going to show. What it is going to look like to anybody that's watching it. All these past streams this week, we've been talking about Jews because that's what everybody's talking about. That's not necessarily the goal that I have, but it's absolutely and irrevocably connected, and there's no way to get around it. Likewise, anybody that's watching this that already knows these things or other things is automatically going to associate to Jews, and so they're going to assume by me not talking about it that I'm like nefarious or something. That's not the case. I'm trying to let people know. My goal is to make people understand how the Constitution fell. Okay, because once this shit goes live, I'm talking about the boog. When the boog happens, which is, we've already talked about this. It can span so many different domains. We can be talking about like the external side was just the Chinese war, which is already set up. It's going to happen no matter what. Like there's nothing you could the Chinese war is so definite that everybody could just hands across America and all the problems and just stop watching the news and be like, well, we don't like them anymore. We're not watching the news. We're just going to work and we're all going to get along. And somehow or another, you're going to fucking get China dropped in your ass. Like it's just going to happen, right? That's how sure it is. The matter of timing is not so sure. It pretty well looks like it's happening, like they're doing it right now. Like they feel the hand of the government that runs the government is getting really nervous because people, if you haven't noticed, people are waking up everywhere. Now, what they're waking up to is extremely gamed and deceptive. So like there are so many different ideas and factions about what's going on and who the enemy is. And yeah, and it makes it really confusing. And it is a tactic, like in all these revolutions that have taken place in Europe over the past 50 years, it is a tactic to set up, false, controlled military movements, right? And so it's going to be almost impossible to understand, to tell what's going on when this thing kicks off. When the boom kicks off, it's going to be impossible to understand. And money, what you want to look for, the most suspicious thing will be people who have a shitload of money that came out of fucking nowhere. Like if somebody pops up out of nowhere and you don't know them, and they're not your boy, and you didn't, for you vets out there, if you don't know them, they're not prior service, but they say they're vets, and they have like tons of fucking money, and especially anybody that gets media coverage. Like if somebody pops up wanting to boog, and then they're getting media coverage, like, and it's not that hard, then you should be pretty suspicious. You know what I mean? Like I could practically go out here on the highway with an S vest and I wouldn't get any media out there. They'd just be like, go to bed, you fucking drunk. And you know what I mean? So if you see somebody that has a shitload of money out of nowhere or fucking media coverage, that is a setup. Okay? Like anybody, it doesn't matter. Like the people that you think are like the people that are on YouTube that are getting boosted views and are like rapidly accelerating right now in viewership, that if you are seeing that is controlled opposition. Like I'm on here, I'm pulling like 1,000 views on these videos. That is reality. The people that are just like exploding and talking about shit that doesn't really matter, but it's vaguely related to some general Republican Democrat concept. That's not authentic. That is not an organic YouTube channel. Like I'm just saying, it's true, and you can look them up too. Like if you know the real name, like the Fuentes guy. What's the guy's name? Nick Fuentes. I fucking searched for Nick Fuentes. I can't fucking find a motherfucker. I know that his Wikipedia says that he went to high school in Illinois. I can't find any record of him. So either he's, it's different. His actual name is a different name, or he's, the background is false. It's not real. He's a Fed. Yeah. Okay. There. He's kind of young for a Fed, but I don't doubt you. Okay. So I'm just warning you guys of this stuff because I think people, we like here in the United States. No worries, Tom. This is a total. I wasn't even. I told you guys I wasn't going to do a stream tonight. I lied because I just watched the video. Now I'm coming out here and we're following up. Okay. But I want you guys to know that, all of anybody that right now that's on the internet that is, even you should be aware. If you're not aware, we didn't talk about this last night, and I've said it before, but I want to be perfectly clear. Like Trump is 100%, like there are no more presidents. So Trump is 100% control. To me, that's pretty obvious, but I understand that to some people, they may not understand that. I don't mean like a suspicion of like his character or something. I mean that he is, his cabinet, the people that understand, history and political science, his cabinet is filled up with people that are involved with the banks. So like he's, there's no possibility that he's not 100% control. you know? Even if he wanted to do anything, he's not going to be able to do anything. So that's just the way that it is. I'm sorry if that breaks your heart, but that's like shit's been fucked up long before Trump got here. Okay, it's not just like Trump got in and now we're fucked. It's like it's been like this since pretty much like JFK, practically. Okay, I just want you to know that. If you have, does anybody have a problem with that? You need like more evidence or something? We're just doing a follow up to yesterday, and I'm giving a warning up front about like boogie things. Yeah, that's a heat lamp for my chickens. Let's see, guys. What if we were the feds all along? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're fed, you guys. It doesn't matter. No, I'm just in. Do you hear the birds are not chirping? It's because I got the lights off. So you need to understand the point of this warning is that when this shit pops off, everybody's gonna be running around like there's like a chicken with their head cut off, and not to fall in line with who looks like your gut feeling. If you get a gut, fuzzy feeling about like well that guy looks like he may fucking know what going on. He has a bunch of vehicles and stuff. You should be working with people that you know, and you should be working towards your community, like local. Like you shouldn't hop in a on a I know it's going to be tempting, but try not to hop into a caravan of cars going across the highway and like go to DC or New York or something like that. Now, if they're fucking destroying federal reserves all over the United States, that's a little bit different story because that's I mean, it's gonna be fucked up if they start doing that. You better expect to have you got 25 Mike and 30 Mike incoming if you start doing that. Like everybody's gonna get killed. But if it's something that's that extreme, then yeah, like whoever's doing this has some fucking balls. But that's real if something like that happens. But if somebody's like going some insignificant, you know, like we're all getting our caravan with our guns and driving across the state, and like that's fake. Don't do it. If there's actually people getting shot, like you don't want to do that. Okay? Yeah, you want to you what would be ideal? What would be ideal if there's not a authentic, organic, consolidated movement in the United States, which would be very gradual if it was organic. It's not going to be overnight. So anything that pops up overnight, anything that has a bunch of money, and anything that gets media coverage, even negative media coverage, right? So those three things are you're going to have to use your brain and use your personal judgment. If you see any three of those indicators, especially if you see all three, if you see something pop up overnight, they've got a bunch of money and the media's covering them, even if they're saying they're bad, they're like these people are white supremacists and these are American patriot supremacists and we have to stop them or whatever. That's fake. Okay, don't listen to them. The uh, the um, the situation with Trump and the media is a performance. Like the media's opposition to Trump is a performance. They actually had to, like, when did Trump get dumped on really hard? He got dumped really hard. I can't remember now. I was trying to draw the incident. I remember there was a time in the last year when the media dumped on Trump super fucking hard. And then they had to roll it back because his numbers started dropping, and then and it was a distinct, like anybody that was like checking in on it, there was a distinct drop in Trump hate, and that's because the reason that was, fuck, I wish I could remember the exact incident, but it was like a 2 week period. So what happened was they set up a controlled performance LARP for everybody, and then they put it out there, and then they were watching the numbers, through media and through social media, and they're like, oh fuck, we went too hard. Like people are actually getting anti-Trump now. I think it was a gun thing. It was, yeah, that's what it was. It was when he did a bump stock ban. Okay, so when Trump went along with the bump stock ban after like the post Vegas, you'll notice that things like really slowed down the media on the Trump hate. Did you notice that? Did you guys pick that up when that happened? Is there anybody in the chat? Yeah, during impeachment, exactly. So like, so they want Trump, like they need Trump in there. They don't need anybody else in there but Trump. Like Hillary was never going to win. Yeah. So that is that is synthesized, right? Yeah, he gave it to ATF. That was, it was never going to, Trump has no fucking option. They're telling him how to fucking pee sideways and shit. Like he doesn't have a fucking choice. I guarantee, I don't know what's going on with Trump. Okay. I would guess, I would guess if he's able to stand up there with a straight face and like talk about the Second Amendment and shit and then just push through bump stock ban or whatever the fuck he wants to do and then hold a straight face the whole time, I would guess that they have some fucking serious dirt on him, like fucking child sex or something. You know what I mean? Like something where it's like he knows that if they just released it, like there's nothing that he could do. He's just like burned forever, like gonna die, you know, practically. Because if they release that, he's never, you know, I mean, he'd be done. Like there's nothing. So yeah, Epstein. Yeah, exactly. He's got associations with Epstein. Everybody knows that. Yeah. So it's most logical that, you know, that they're holding blackmail on him. That's extremely significant. Okay. And that's like how fucked up this whole situation is right now for the State of the Union. Like if you want to have a real State of the Union, well, shit's fucked. 2020. Okay. So I wanted to make sure that you guys understand this because I don't want you to get swept up into a vacuum of fake fake fucking, you know, fake revolution and shit that is sure to be here. But the real goal is the Chinese war, you know. And so if you guys had an organic conflict in the United States, it's very possible that they would like hurry the fuck up with China and like just pop it off, just so that like when you guys like if you had an organic impotent movement where it wasn't really doing much but you look like you could be a threat, they'd probably pop this shit off with China just to fucking like make you go like, oh shit, well this is important, but like, you know, we're all gonna die if we don't go to China, you know, and then you lose all the dudes from your fucking movement. That's like you get what I'm saying. It's a relation. It's like a vector, right? It's like a two scale vector. So you got the internal conflict in the United States that's genuine, not synthesized. So like race baiting and race riots and all that shit, that's all synthesized. But the organic one, like what the point of all this shit in the media is to keep you guys pacified so that you're not organizing and doing anything. If you start to organize and they're gonna watch you, right, all the time. And if you look like you're actually gonna get uppity, they're gonna fucking pop off China. Now, that doesn't mean that you should be good boys and you know then you'll be fine because they're gonna pop off China on you no fucking matter what. Like it's just a timing issue. Okay. This is known because of you if you want to know more about this, research the history of the gold into China, particularly over the last 20 years. When they move huge quantities of gold into China, that means it's a preparation for war. And we already know who China's enemy is because the media has made that very clear, so you can't fuck it up. Like, you know, they've put it in everybody's mind. Everybody already has the seed planted that they're the enemy of China in the United States, and that China doesn't like them. And everybody in China has had the same thing done. So this shit is already like the dominoes are set up. Okay, it's going to happen. All right. And I talked about last night that we need to keep like we need to spread on the internet like memes and shit so that people understand not to go fight in China. The reason being is I'm sure, yeah, besides the fact I know that there's all kinds of fucking high speed dudes out there, dudes watching this video, you know what kind of people watch Carnicon. You know, we got everybody. We got a little bit of everybody here. I know that you guys are fucking straight up killers, okay? I get it. But what I'm trying to tell you is that this is a serious threat to the United States. And because you're straight up killers, that's why you have to, that's why they want you to go to China. So you can get killed in China and you're not fighting them here when they take off a mask. China has to go? No, yeah. Okay, I want to address Amy in this chat because Amy said to me, China has to go, Dugan. It's not a factor of if China has to go or not. You are not going to get rid of China. Like you're not going to win. The war is fake. So like, You are going to go anybody that, when the military, when the fake occupied government that is here right now gives orders to send you to China, and they'll probably have to do a draft. You're going to go over to China, and then you're not. There's no way. Like everything is going to be controlled on how effective you are against China. You are set to win. Like in the history books, like let's say that nobody knew what the fuck was going on. We were all dumbasses. We just did whatever, went lolly dolly down the path that they want us to go. The history books are going to say that America won. But when you get back here, nothing is ever going to be the fucking same again. And you're going to lose a lot of people. Okay? I just want to make sure that you understand that. So this is not a matter of like, what I'm trying to tell you is that this is not a matter of like, dick measuring contest and like, are we going to win? Are we going to lose? And what I'm trying to tell you is that you don't need to be worrying about China. Like if they come to the United States and start bombing us, shoot those fuckers out of the sky. Okay? You don't need to go over to China because while you're there, we're gonna fucking get cleaved over here, okay? And back home. All the people that you love, that the whole fucking reason you'd fight a war for in the first place, well, they're gonna be, changed up while you're gone. Okay? That's that. I just want to make sure that you understand that because it's kind of a subtlety, right? Because all this stuff, like the messaging about China and the buildup in the conflict, is all propaganda. I'm sure you're going to hit. And then somebody asked about Iran. Iran is going to go down too, no matter what. So they've tried very hard to get us to hit Iran directly. And the people of the United States are so sick of Afghanistan and Iraq that they won't tolerate Iran. Like they won't tolerate just like, all right, let's go to Iran. They tried to do the fucking Syria gas attack, which is fake, the Syria gas attack, to try to fucking blame it on Iran. Okay, that's what they're trying to do. They never got there. They only got as far as Syria. They're like, look, the Syrian government did this. Syrian government is obviously backed by Iran. So if we engaged in like direct war with Syria, it's going to pull on Iran. Like if there's like a full-fledged conflict. Okay, that was what the gas attack was about. Okay, so, but Iran is going to go down. It will fall. If you go to China, like if there's a Chinese war and people don't fucking wake up and they go do it, then it'll be en route to that or part of that greater war. China or Iran will just get hit. You know what I mean? Like they'll just get taken out because it's a necessary thing. They can't stay there. So I don't mean like it's good, right? I'm saying like this is all in the plan. Like this is a part of the plan that's going to happen. So that was a little segue. We kind of pulled off from what we were talking about. I was talking about the internal. That's all external. The internal conflict, right? They only want a managed thing. So they either want you, if you're going to do an internal conflict, it's got to be totally managed, or it's got to be, totally managed as in like outside forces like leading you guys, so that you're just going in circles chasing your tails, and probably getting picked off, and that's probably just hold you long enough to get China kicked off, keep you busy long enough to kick off China, right? So on the internal side, we talked about the things to look for. If you just got in here, go back and look at it. This Black Flag 1285 asked me, Dugan, what's the time frame on all this? Months, years, decades? I thought that this shit was going to happen in the last 5 years. So this is based on a timeline from RIT Capital. So in 2017, after the I think it was post Vegas shooting, it might have been prior, but it was approximately in line with the Vegas shooting. RIT Capital, which is Rothschild, put out their portfolio file. Pretty much, it's like a roll call of or like an op order that's in coded language for investors, and they basically said you need to start hedging for U.S. economy. So what they're saying in the RIT Capital PDF that came out in 2017, they're letting everybody know. Everybody that's just got shit invested in the United States but doesn't really give a fuck about the United States, all the money people, they were letting them know that like, hey, shit's about to change here, but it's really slow. So it's not, I didn't know, I could have thought it could have happened in 2017 up to now. I'm surprised it hadn't happened up to now, honestly. So it could be years. It's not going to be that long, decade most. Like decade would be absolute max. I don't think from judging from the news tempo and the way that they've had to build up China with COVID-19 and the current tensions with Chinese naval forces and Air Force, I would say that this is like imminent. Like we're talking like my guess. This is just my gut feeling. I would say we're talking like a month, or next year. It could be next year. It's very close. It's very close. Like if you're thinking, I'll put it this way: if you're in this stream and you're watching me and you're thinking like, okay, well I've got time. Like you don't have any time. You need to get your shit tight right now. Like, you should assume this shit will kick off on Monday, and operate on that assumption. It probably won't kick off on Monday. Who knows? But people are waking up, so they're gonna have to hurry the fuck along. Okay, that is what I wanted to say about the internal happenings in the United States. As far as I know, the boog hasn't started. Is there anything going on with the boog? Like, is anybody attacking anything or anything right now? I haven't even looked at the news today, so I don't know. I guess something could have popped off and I don't even know it. We just talked about this. You'll have to go back in the stream. Nothing? Okay, so nobody said anything. I haven't been reading your messages because I'm trying to stay more on track. I drank less beer today. Yeah, Texas and Colorado, I heard about that. Okay, so what else do you guys need to know? So the Rothschilds, everything that's happened in the United States has occurred. If I have to put this through a simple filter, everything that's happened in the United States, including the revolution, including the like the founding of the United States, right? Like, did I talk about Spain? Did we ever talk about that when we were talking about 7 Years' War? Like how the fuck we even got the United States and shit? Have you guys ever heard of the Spanish Inquisitions? Do you know about the Spanish Inquisitions? Or is that too much stuff? Should we just stick to something more? Okay, we're gonna reel it in and keep it tight. Okay, so I'm gonna stay. Because as Americans we think of the United States, like our history basically goes in a vacuum prior to the Revolutionary War, right? Like we all know Revolutionary War and the forefathers and the Constitution, right? So, but we don't really know much before that as Americans, and that's fine. I'm gonna give you a synopsis of where we're at now and how we got to this, very short, and then tomorrow we'll go more in depth for everybody. But this is just kind of like a practice run, okay? So essentially, this is going to be quite an oversimplification, but basically when we were fighting England, Great Britain in the Revolutionary War, we were not really fighting Great Britain. Okay, we were fighting the banks through Great Britain. Okay, so the history books obviously don't say this. They talk about King George the First. Okay, that's who King George. I mean, all the historical Revolutionary War shit. That's King George. Okay, King George. So the banking, the international retail finance, or the international monetary people, got kicked out of England in like 1285, and they went down to Ireland and they fucking set up shop there because Ireland didn't know shit. So they're like, you got kicked out, we're coming down here. We started loaning down there. They made so much money and shit and caused so much like economic stimulation in the area that the follow-up British government went down there and fucking fought Ireland to try to get a piece of that, right? And then they absorbed Ireland. That's the reason that Ireland is in the UK, in the United Kingdom, if you didn't know that. When that happened, that's when the Cromwell Revolution happened in Britain, and that's when the Jews took over Britain after being expelled in 1285. If you didn't know that, so that's the backstory on you can look that up and check it out all you want. I just wanted to give you a little backstory on like how to justify the claim that, you know, we're not actually fighting Great Britain in the Revolutionary War. Okay, so you should think of, if you're like a patriot, like a civil patriot, that doesn't remember anything from this before the Revolutionary War, which is most Americans. You should understand that the people that you're fighting now, that we were getting ready to fight, you should think of it like King George, because it's the same fucking thing. Even though you're not going to be fighting the British, it's the same fucking thing. Okay. Now, since then, right? Like once we got the colonies and won them, because of the time that it was, and because of the distance between the two land masses and the giant body of water, the giant fuck all body of water called the ocean between them, the Atlantic Ocean. Because of this, they couldn't really, you know, it's not like a hot, you know, it's kind of a bit of a stretch to get over here. You know what I mean? So once you get your ass kicked once doing that, it's like you got to kind of circle your wagons a little bit and worry about other shit and then try again later. So that entire period up through Thomas Jefferson was that, where we were just like getting our shit set up here in the colonies, getting our actual country formed and together, and then like starting to execute functioning government as a country. While that was happening, they were consolidating control over Europe, and that's why they left us the fuck alone. They didn't really get in here until, you know, the railroads. So the railroads, that's all, you know, that's through like Rockefeller, like oil railroads. It's like Morgans and Rockefellers. Okay. Morgans and Rockefellers are little bitty bag boys for Rothschild. Okay. I just want to make sure you guys understand this. So like when you read, there's a ton of history and information about Rockefellers. They're huge, especially in the 19th and 20th century. They're huge on the development and expansion of the United States. But what you need to understand is that all of that is, they literally didn't have anything. They're just bagmen. So they just are appointed as representatives in the United States that can function in a society and be sneaky and not be like nobody knows what's going on. And then they're just trying to subvert the United States the entire time through huge injections of money. Okay. So that was the industrialization period. They were also involved in the Civil War on both sides. So like Union and Confederate were both like Rothschild funded. Okay. The Civil War was like the first major stage of consolidating this country in a way that was top-down control. It was very, the way that we were before was very radical and almost like anarchist, you know what I mean? Like in a sense, like compared to how we are now, it was fucking pure anarchy, like compared to this fucking shit show that we have now. But the Civil War was for the purpose of like, you know, stomping everybody down and being like, okay, we're getting, you know, we're kind of all singing the same tune now. Everybody come along, unless you want to die. That's what the Civil War was. Didn't have fuck all to do with slavery. People that say that has to do with slavery do not know what they're talking about. In fact, what I would say is that if anybody wanted to talk about how much the Civil War had to do with slavery, I would refer you to Frederick Douglass, who is a freed slave at the end of the Civil War, gave a speech at the Freedmen Monument, in which during the speech, it's like a commemorative speech where he like reflects on the process of change. And in that speech, he talks about, I mean, you just read the speech. You can find it and read it if that's what you want to do. I like Frederick Douglass. I think it's pretty cool. So it's not a states' rights issue. That's a sub issue. I mean, I agree with you, but what I'm saying is that that's a microcosm. It is so there were no police in the United States before the 1830s. Okay, after the Civil War, after the 1860s, the police model started getting expanded out everywhere. The original police were on the East Coast at the factories. They were there to suppress unions, and that model was taken from Britain. Okay, so They brought it over. They had textile factories, right? Because the way that slavery worked, by the way, if you don't know this, and this is gonna be a gross oversimplification, but essentially the way that slavery worked, even the South's economic model, it was like semi-combined, where the South was like the producer, right? Like they had all the climates where you can just grow like long season are in the South. Once you go up north, it's like long season, so it's like their productive capacity is severely diminished compared to the South. So before the Industrial Revolution, all the southern states did all the tobacco and cotton production and shit like that because they could grow longer season. That's just geography and climatology and how it like works out, right? Because it just makes sense because it's not like they have like fucking greenhouses everywhere and fucking weather control and shit like they do now. So the South ended up being, you know, I was just kind of joking about the weather control. That was just a bit from the fucking Harper thing. They can't control the weather that well. But they can do shit to fuck it up if they want. Um, that's totally another topic. We're not going into that. It was more of a joke. So so in the Civil War, after they were prior to the Civil War, I should say, the pre-Civil War economy. What was happening was they were taking all those southern crops and shit, and they would ship it out of the South ports. So that'd be like Louisiana and shit. They would ship it out, and it would whip around Florida, and they also had shit in Florida, right? But it would whip up around Florida, and then it would go to the East Coast of New York. And New York was like all your merchants, and then your merchants would in New England and shit like that. I mean, it's like all that shit on the East Coast, the business people, right, the money people. Then they would ship it over to Europe, mostly Britain, and Britain had like all your like international shippers and shit, right? And you had textile processing in both on the East Coast and in Britain. And so that was like the general route of export to build up the United States once they kind of consolidated that whole thing. But that's all through like intermediaries and people that just wanted to make money that were in the United States that didn't care about anything. They're just like, we're just making money, so we're going along with this model because this is a good way to flow. Like they're putting dollars in their pockets. That's how they're looking at it, right? That's how it happened up to that point. The result of which was the initial wave of government expansion via the Civil War, where they got initial top-down compliance through the United States. Okay. As soon as we get into prior to Wilson, right? Wilson's election, which would have been 1916, prior to World War One, but World War One started in 1914 in Europe. Wilson stayed out of the war. That was his campaign slogan. That's how he got out of the war, right? That's how he got elected, by saying he's going to stay out of the war. Nobody wanted to go to World War One. The Gallup polls for World War One are dismal. Nobody wanted to fight at all. They had to do a lot of fucking media magic to get everybody into World War One, and we went over there. And prior to World War One, in order to fund it, they had to put it in the Federal Reserve, and they switched it out for the banks. The banks put that in. Okay, and that's when that's when shit really started getting wild. Okay, we pretty much got off the rails in World War One big time, but it really started in the Civil War. It was just a lot slower. It wasn't so streamlined and direct. Like people weren't frenzied to make money and shit. Like oh, what do you like people after World War One, people just started realizing there's just a magic money hose somewhere, and they can go put their mouth on it and suck on it as hard as they want. And they're like, they were just like, wow, I always thought that everything in life you had to work for, and there's a reciprocal consequence to everything you did. Boy, was I wrong. When we suck on this fucking money hose, I have no idea what the consequence is going to be. That's World War One. Okay. Prior to all this shit, even prior to the Civil War, Thomas Jefferson, fought a war in 1812. That was a war against the banks, right? So Thomas Jefferson was like the last president to try to fucking get these. Yeah, I know about fucking Jekyll Island. I'm about to go in. Thomas Jefferson was the last one to try to fucking keep these fucking banks out. Okay, they really started getting creative and swindling after that, and then by the Civil War we lost it. Okay, but it's all. What my point is, everything is about the banks. Okay, all the shit. Like if there's nothing that you took away from this podcast, other than the banks, then you'd be like miles ahead of other people. Okay, that's the point I want to drive home. All right. After World War I, you get like people. The American population was pretty devastated by World War One. Okay, because not only did you get the war losses, which they weren't crazy huge for us. Like Germany lost millions of people, millions of men in World War One. The United States only lost. I don't know. Could somebody look up the U.S. figures for American males that died in World War One, please? KIA. It should be around. It should be like 100,000 or something, or like 200,000 maybe. It's not as significant as Germany. Germany was pretty fucking high, right? It's kind of like the point of the war was Germany. So now what I should say about Wilson is that Wilson's story, President Wilson, Woodrow Wilson, he's the guy that gained World War One. Wilson has a speech in 1914, I think, or no, it's not a speech, it's a book. He wrote a book. He has like a memoir from 1914 where Wilson has his own. Okay, thank you. 116,000 KIA, American KIA. Okay. Thank you for that number. 63K died due to illness, right? And that's what we're talking about the Spanish flu that we discussed in the last stream. Okay. The Spanish flu, the reason the Spanish flu was so bad was because of government incompetence, because their priority was winning the war no matter what, even at the cost of lives. And you should understand that, because that should tell you something about how they value human life and where their priority is, you know? So, yeah. So, where were we? We World War One, and well, I wanted to just briefly talk about Woodrow Wilson. So Woodrow Wilson wrote a book, or it was actually 1915. In 1915, Woodrow Wilson had it's either a book or a memoir, and in that he basically gives a eerily equivalent vision, like his own words, of like JFK's Secret Society speech, but it's in 1915. And this often gets suppressed because, number one, anybody that's a constitutionalist and doesn't like Wilson, so they're not reading a shit. And, and anybody that does know about it, that would know, doesn't want people to read it. But we're going to be reading that tomorrow. Yeah, he was a communist. I'm not shilling for fucking Wilson, okay? What I'm saying is that prior to Wilson coming into power to fuck the United States in World War I, which is what he did, he writes a long ass memoir talking about a power. I don't have it here. We're not going to read it tonight. We'll read it tomorrow. Essentially, in this memoir, in this description, he says that there is a ultra powerful, force that you can't see, and that it is like attacking everything, and it has no remorse. And he talks about how it has changed the face of the United States, and how it's no longer true, as it was once said, that a man can pursue to the best of his abilities the path that he chooses, that everything is controlled, like economically, and that these are real big boys doing this, and that the general population doesn't have doesn't even have a conception of it, but that it's like in full-fledged, like full-blown AIDS on this thing, okay? Like, it's already fucking going. And that's all the way back in 1915, okay? The reason he's writing that is because they rolled out the fucking Federal Reserve in 1915. Isn't that correct? Can somebody look up Federal Reserve statement and verify that it's 1915? I believe it is. And then income tax also, right? Income tax came. Before that, it wasn't there. So that's an important point. Now, 13. Okay, thank you. 1913. Perfect. No, income tax is right around the same time. Maybe income tax is 1915. 1913 is your Fed. Okay. So if you don't know this, the way that there's a lot of money models out there. No, the Spanish, well, maybe possibly the income tax could be Spanish American War. I haven't looked into income tax as much. The Federal Reserve was directly put into for World War One. So like when they did that, if they did that in 1913, that means that, you know, they had already decided to go to war with Germany all the way back then. Because that's the entire purpose of the United States would not be able to fight on its previous economic model, is unable to receive the huge amounts of influx in economic stimulation to produce the war material for World War One. So that's why they had to do the Federal Reserve, because Federal Reserve is just like, fuck it, flip the lights off those printing presses on fucking repeat and leave that shit going. We're gonna turn on some fucking techno here and just let them run. Okay. Okay, thank you. Income tax was February 1913, and the Fed was December 1913. Okay. Now, then after World War One, that's when you start getting the shit with like Hoover and shit. So Hoover, President Hoover, all the presidents between there are corrupt to a degree. Like Wilson, if you read into letters and shit, there's a very good probability that he was actually blackmailed by having an affair. And the person he had an affair with, like, they had all the information on it. And that's the reason that Wilson knew that there was bad news before he even got there. But then once he got there, he just had to fucking walk lockstep. Okay. Now, no, Teddy Roosevelt was a bull moose, and Teddy Roosevelt was used to get Wilson in because they couldn't get him. He had to split the ticket. So like Teddy Roosevelt knew that he wasn't going to win the last time. They just threw him in there so that fucking Wilson would win. So I wouldn't, I don't know. My opinion is that if you're the fucking president of the United States, you better be straight up and you better be like ready to fight, because we are, any generation, like Teddy Roosevelt, any of them, we should have had more people that were looking out for us and that wanted to face truth. And they all fucking took the shortcut. Like every single one of them was like, well, maybe it's better if we just fucking don't look at the giant fucking elephant in the room. Okay. So Andrew Jackson was pretty good, but we're getting off topic here. What I'm saying is that, you had a lot of presidents in that time. They're all corrupt to a degree. You get Hoover in. Hoover is like the king of fucking corruption. Like Hoover is like the most corrupted president that we've I don't know if we've ever had. There's probably some presidents who've done some super fucked up shit, but Hoover's fucking up there. So Hoover, if you didn't know this, and he would have been president like between World War I and World War II. And how Hoover started was he was a low level, worked at a gold mine as like a laborer. And then the firm, the gold mine they worked at was like contracted under a firm. And then he got involved with the firm, and they figured out he was like good at like being a con artist. So they sent him to, like, he went to Australia and China and was doing, he was doing mining speculation on behalf of, mine stocks to rip people off money. But the firms that he's working for are directly like within 2 degrees from Rothschild. So the Rothschild gold mining firms, and that would have been in Australia and in China. And there's record of it, and I'll try to print it off to bring it in tomorrow, and we'll throw it up there. But basically, he got barred from the London, in London, he got kicked out of international stock trading. And there is a magistrate record of him like going to fucking court, and the magistrate like basically chastising him, even though the London court system is like fully under control of Rothschilds. So like it's ironic that they had he was just such a low level bad boy that they just didn't want to like fuck around and take the time to even figure out what, oh, this is our guy. Okay. It wasn't even like, they were just like, wow, this is just such a fucked up, like blatant, you're ripping off these Chinese people, like shame on you. You go pay them the fine and give them their fucking money back. So that's on record with Hoover under his firm. That was Rothschild firm. Okay. After that, Hoover comes back to the United States, and they make him a motherfucking, he's like in a UN position, and then he gets into the US Secretary of Commerce. That's when the fun starts. This is prior to him being president. He does the Belgian Relief Fund. The Belgian Relief Fund was during World War One when Germany was running out of food and trying to fucking survive with peace offerings to England, and England was just like basically like flipping the finger back to them, like like you're all gonna die, and we know it. The Hoover did the Belgian Relief Fund. The Belgian Relief Fund was a huge campaign in the United States to make people just like voluntarily just hand over their grain. So like all the farmers in the United States got like little posters and shit, like woo, support the troops, like Belgian Relief Fund, and they just fucking gave their grain away, like huge. I'm talking like tons. Like this is like thousands of tons of grain that got taken from the United States. The reason they've had to make up a story about Belgium going through a famine. There may have been some small level of like food shortage because of the fucking war, but they weren't going through a famine. And there's anecdotal, there's like letters and shit about like Belgians writing letters about how they, aren't even, they're like, what is the famine, So what was actually going on was that Germany was running out of food. And so that Germany was like calculated, they were like, well, they don't know that we're running out of food, these other countries that we're fighting. So let's offer them like a ridiculously dope peace offering. And that's all the Germans knew, because Germany didn't know that they were being subverted, right? Like they thought that they were just like a country, just like anybody else, and everything was straight up. Like they're dumbasses, right? So Hoover ran the Belgian Relief Fund in the United States, swindled the United States out of huge stockpiles of grain under an international program that was private. This would have been under like, I don't think it was Red Cross, but it was under some private organization, but he had connections from his government work to like make it happen, make it big. And from his Rothschild relationship. He sent all that grain to Belgium on paper, and then it got reverted to Germany so that they could feed each other. And then I think like historically, it's under they consider it like a tactical loss, like Germany just like intersected the delivery and like got it out of Belgium. That's not what happened. It's they fucking meant to send it to him so they could keep him in the war. So it was like somebody in Germany linked up with the people in the United States, and they fucking set it up, and they just fucking we're fucking fighting Germany, I think, at the time. I believe I have to look at dates. I don't have fucking source material in front of me. I'm pretty sure that we're fighting Germany at the time. So they use a Belgian cover story because if they said what they were actually doing, everybody would go fucking bananas, because they'd be like, what, like, aren't we fighting the people that we're sending fucking grain to? So they make up this whole fucking Belgian story just to keep Germany in the war. Or no, I'm sorry, yeah. So necessarily, we weren't in the war yet. They knew that we were going, and they were setting up, and they needed to keep Germany in the war long enough until we could finish war armament with industry, so that we could go over there and fucking kill them all. So they, what I mean? So we knew that we were going, we weren't there yet, and Germany was trying to drop out. They were like trying to offer everybody peace and like, let's be friends and shit. And so the international media had to stimulate the whole fucking thing to make Germany get engaged and kill. Yeah, it's fucking completely nuts. And I have documents for all that shit. Like all that shit is in the Library of Congress and shit, and people have written books about it. I'll pull some docs, at least like a couple that are significant, so that you can check it out and understand what's up. So that's just the start of how fucked up Hoover is. Okay, we're not even like, Hoover is the biggest piece of shit that has ever fucking stood in the White House, next to probably the one that's there right now. So Hoover then, if you didn't know this, the World War I vets got a deferred payment. It's called a bonus. It's from fucking Washington, D.C. They, 20,000 vets went over there. The bonus army, it's not really a bonus, it's a deferred payment. They were going to pay them after they started dying. So it was like, these guys would have been like 60 by the time that they got the rest of their fucking money for the war that they fought, the U.S. vets, like the Marines and shit. And so like they all these vets were dying because they got phosgene gas exposure and shit like that. So they went to go fucking protest. They all camped out on the White House lawn. This would have been on 31? Probably 31, maybe 32. Hoover's the president, okay, at this time. Like he's made it all the way up to U.S. president. So Hoover's the one that orders all the shit for the active military to go suppress these guys. And they fucking burn all their shit. Two fucking PFC vets, like anything else. Like they could have shot fucking somebody that, was a little more burned out or something. They shot like fresh fucking PFC vets back from the fucking Great War. Fucking shot a pair of them, killed them. You know, they rolled tanks through the bitch. They rolled tanks. They used gas, so they used CS gas to suppress them, and they used cavalry too. So they had like horse cavalry with bayonets, and they would fucking crack people and stuff. So the fucking the Hoover ordered that shit, and then you should know that Patton was in charge of the tank unit that attacked the vets, and the whole operation was under MacArthur. He was in charge of the whole shebang under the order. He's a fucking psychopath. And then his aide was Lieutenant Eisenhower. So you should know that. So we've already discussed this, but just throw it in there because we're going in chronology. It's a significant event. That's Hoover. Okay. Then you got World War II. We haven't gotten that too much from the U.S. side, but I think most people have a general idea of World War II from the American perspective. Like we went over there. The biggest thing that you need to understand about World War II is that nobody knew about the Holocaust. The Holocaust wasn't known at all, and they had to make films to even know about it. And even when they made the films, nobody gave a fuck. And then they started teaching it in school in the 70s. 60s and 70s, they started teaching it big time. And then now it's like every fucking person knows about the Holocaust. Like you're gonna know about the Holocaust all the time because you can't go a year without 2 movies about the Holocaust or mention of it. Anyway, the point is that the Holocaust, people have a misunderstanding in the United States. Like people describe going to World War II as like, fuck man, they were putting people in ovens. It's like no, not a single fucking person in the United States besides whoever the fuck was a part of it knew that shit was going on. Okay. To whatever degree that it was going on. So don't construe my words and take some kind of. I'm going to tell you this. I'm not gonna speak on the Holocaust. There are fucking debates about the Holocaust. So I'll just put it that way. Okay. And they are significant. There are people that have like gone to court arguing against their Holocaust, and the judge and like they technically won in court. You know what I mean? They were trying to put out history about how the Holocaust is manufactured to the degree that it is, that it's published, that's historically acceptable, and they go to fucking they get ordered by the state to stop saying or writing whatever they're doing, disseminating whatever information, and then they're like, nope, I'm taking it to court. And they're like, particularly in Canada, I'm sure people know about this. There've been people that have gone to court challenged by the state that they're committing a crime for diminishing the Holocaust, and when they went to court, they fucking won. So like, I'm not saying I wasn't in fucking Europe in World War II. I wasn't even born yet, right? Obviously, so I don't fucking know, and I'm not going to speak on it. So that's where I'm at on that. You should know. People should understand that there are drastic opinion differences among people in the world about the Holocaust. Okay? And that if those exist, you can't stop. Like here's the thing, right? Regardless of if the Holocaust happened, there was a much bigger death count of people that fucking starved to death in multiple waves in Ukraine that far surpassed the Holocaust. And not only does nobody give a fuck about that, but they try to actively erase it. So like Holodomor is what I'm talking about if you don't know. But Holodomor is a secondary event to a prior event that was the exact same fucking thing, like 10 years prior. And Holodomor is so actively suppressed by the media that they had to go, like they've gone, people from Ukraine that are upset about, like all the fucking percentage of the population that are wiped out being starved to death. They're so upset that it is released, that is being suppressed by media and that nobody will talk about it. And the reason that nobody will talk about it is because of its relation to the Holocaust. Like that, like if you want to know why the media suppresses Holodomor and that people feel like there's a huge injustice there, it's because the media does not want to cover it because they don't want people to get confused about the Holocaust because they think that you're too dumb to be able to differentiate the two, and they don't want glory stolen from the Holocaust. Like that's just a fact. Like that's what's going on, right? So you got like a bigger death count that's like much larger and like fucking 100% for sure. Like there's nobody that was like in Ukraine or in Europe that was like, I don't know if your number, I don't know, if that many shitload of people died in the Holodomor. Like people fucking know how many fucking people died in the Holodomor. You know what I mean? People that are there know there's a shitload of fucking people, right? Like fucking permanent world changing fucking loss, world population changing loss. And that's not like nobody is debating that. Okay. And that is different from the Holocaust. So that's the only distinction that I'm making. I'm saying that there's some people that really want the Holocaust to be like number one. That's all I'm going to say. Okay. So World War II, the other thing that you should know about World War II is that between World War I and World War II, you have the stock market crash in just, 29. That would be the Great Depression. That would be like the Dust Bowl. That was a pretty big blow to the United States. You get in World War II, or rather between it, you also get gold confiscation, right? So there's a period where the United States government confiscated privately held gold, and this would have been following World War One. Okay, nationwide gold confiscation. So you should know that. That's a big deal, right? That's like that. So the gold confiscation, you pretty much like when governments go for gold, it means that it's in preparation for war. So I don't know what the gold confiscation, like I don't have documents about where, it's somewhat elusive, right? Because it was quite a bit before World War, was it in 39, the gold confiscation? It was quite a bit, it was before World War II. It wasn't like right when World War II was kicking off, but it's certainly related to World War II. Like they were just stealing citizens' gold by order of law to fund a war. Okay, and silver, yeah, and so that's significant, right? Because that could happen again. So you should know that if you don't know that, and then you got World War II. Now World War II is the big one. World War II is like the fuck all world event that changes shit, right? In World War II, after World War II rather, that's when like everybody just gives up. Like all the people of the world are just so sick of fucking war because nobody wanted to go to World War II in the United States. That's the other thing that you should know about World War II. Nobody in the United States wanted to fight in World War II. And if you would have told them, like, if they did know about concentration camps and shit, they wouldn't have given a fuck because nobody wanted to fucking go there. Because everybody in the United States was super pissed off about World War One. Like, people were upset about World War One, especially if you can imagine, like, getting like the very first organized government propaganda campaign through the papers and shit. Like the same fucking annoying media that's doing this bullshit now that everybody hates was happening in its own stupid, less technologically advanced way for World War One. And there were serious social issues with going into World War One because at that time, Germany was like a huge population in the United States, and it was the second language in the United States besides English, and like a majority of the population spoke German. Okay, so you gotta imagine how heavy the propaganda would be to get a bunch of people that are like second generation Germans to fucking agree to go back to Germany and fucking kill their family, right? Like you get what I'm saying here? Like it's a fucking big deal. So it was traumatizing to the population. Like the psychological group profile of the United States was severely traumatized by World War One, and they never wanted to fucking go there in the first place, and they really had to fucking pull all the fucking fences to get them over there. Then when the war drums started beating for World War II, everybody was like, "Oh no, not this motherfucker again," you know. And nobody wanted to go to World War II at all, like forever. And they had to propagandize the United States to get into World War II, culminating in Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor was known about, and they could have stopped it, and they didn't fucking stop it. I'm not going to get into that, but people fucking know. It's fucking radio transmissions, but not even radio transmissions. That's not the most significant thing. You know that they set up World War II because The United States supplied all the fucking oil and steel to Japan, who was in an active military campaign, and they slowly just started pinching it off, and they just cut it all off. And when they cut it all off, it was like all or nothing thing for Japan and Germany. And so obviously Japan was going to, they're like, okay, we're going to go to war now. And the United States government knew that. And then they didn't even raise their defenses. And then when they got hit in Pearl Harbor, they act like it was some fucking surprise. I can promise you that the fucking lack of intelligence agency that was there in World War II was not surprised by Pearl Harbor. So if you're a patriot and you're listening to this and you're like not used to any of the shit that I'm saying, and you're like, I don't know, you sound like not a patriot and anti-American. I'm so fucking American that these motherfuckers' lies don't work on me. I'm fucking, you can shoot that at me and that's gonna bounce off me like fucking ping pong balls. I don't give a fuck. I care about fucking people in Pearl Harbor, and that's why I don't fucking like this shit, because they fucking killed them. Okay? So you should, if you feel like I'm like not a patriot and like slamming on the United States, maybe you better fucking point your fucking traitor gun, the other way and point it at your fucking self. Okay? Your traitor labeler. Because I give a fuck about the people that died in Pearl Harbor. And I would have rather have them not fucking die, by like, hearing on the radio that the fucking Japanese are coming and then actually fucking doing something about it. Okay? All right. I just wanted to get that out of the fucking way. Because this shit is all very critical. Like if you're watching this and you don't know any background, you're gonna if you're like an idiot, if you're like a retard watching this, you're gonna be like, fuck, this is extremely critical of the United States. I am not critical of the United States. I am critical of the people that fucking stole the United States. Okay? All right. The United States people are fucking people, and they're doing the best that they can. They always have. I'm not critical of the people of the United States. I'm critical of these fucking swindlers and liars and fucking people that shouldn't be here. All right. So, World War II. After World War II, this is like the game changer, right? So after World War II, you get all of the intelligence services come into play. So prior to World War II, our intelligence services are pretty dumb. I don't think they're dumb. I think they're just honest. They're honest. The model of intelligence comes out of the like classical Machiavellian, business and psychological profiles and methods out of like international business. That's where the base, like everything that's in the intelligence services, all the foundational mechanics of how operations work in intelligence are all derived from business operations from like, forever, from like the 1700s and 1800s, particularly when you started getting like pre-industrialization, the Enlightenment era. That's where the foundation of intelligence comes from. Yeah. OSS is from World War II. After World War II, the OSS expands, and then the shit just goes off the rails. So you get like you get the invention of like the FRDCs, which you should look that up. FRDC is like a pseudo government private entity. I think we've got like 47 of them probably currently active, and they've been around since World War II, and they're just fucking giant money vacuums that like, they basically just do whatever the fuck they want, and they don't have much oversight. And that's where you get like they run nukes and shit, like nuke development, all that shit. So you should know that. You should know that the invention of the Independent Executive Agency, which would be like CIA, ATF, FBI, fucking FTC, FCC, like all acronyms. Are you noticing the pattern here with acronyms? Those are all what are called in the legal structure. Those are called Independent Executive Agencies. Yeah, the NRO, the fucking GSA, DSS, NGA. Yes, those are all independent executive agencies. Okay, we didn't have those before World War II, so they got introduced after World War II. Once the United States was like, fucking blinded by money and like, basically swindled out of having a brain, like as a government structure, like our brain, our ability to guard ourselves went away and dissipated as a nation state, as like a a organism, like a state organism that's like got a bunch of, you know, fingers and hands and arms. We lost the ability to defend ourselves and to even be able to detect and identify foreign subversion in World War II. Okay, that was like the big fucking that was the big fucking drop. That was the mic drop. So uh, in World War, the executive independent agencies are not elected. Sometimes they have cabinet members. Sometimes they don't have any fucking cabinet members. There are a shitload. There are fucking so many that I don't even know if anybody. I know for a fact that nobody in the public knows them all because some of them are classified, so they don't even list them uh, on the fucking independent executive agency list. So pretty much how these things operate, to explain it to you, is that the Federal Reserve doesn't make any choices. The Federal Reserve is just bag boys that get told what to do by international retail finance. The Federal Reserve makes recommendations on the in and out of money in the United States, basically. They don't actually make any decisions. They're just told what to say. The way that the money spills through the economy is via Congress, like voting on these giant fucking bills that nobody could possibly fucking read because they're like 20,000 pages and they get like 24 hours. So they're just pushing through bills with like a phone book full of fucking new laws. And this has been going on at a you know, exponential pace from its inception up until now. And now at this point, it's just like, you know, it's a regular thing where it'd be like, you know, okay, here's a truck full of papers and here's a single signature line that you signed for. And then those will all be laws. And that's why shit has gone off the fucking rails here. And you have crazy, stupid laws and shit, and why everything's consolidated. Okay. So the independent executive agencies, I want you to understand this. They are a parallel government structure to the constitutional government in the United States that is a midpoint prior to whatever this war that's coming up. When we get on the other side of this war, all of our government will be replaced. So the executive independent agencies, like, because I have a lot of gun people probably watching this, a lot of people are like Second Amendment people and gun people. So they're familiar with the ATF, which is a non-governmental organization. So because you're familiar with that, I want to use them as an example. The ATF has cross-jurisdictional authority with law enforcement at all levels. So like national, state, local, municipal, sheriff, county, like the ATF can dictate at any time, if it's within their legally authorized domain, to supersede the government, you know, your representative government. The actual government that you like, ATF is a independent executive agency. You don't vote for them. You vote for your fucking county sheriff, okay? But if in your county, if you have some kind of shooting involving a gun, and the ATF gets a fucking hair up their ass from, you know, whoever runs them, which is probably, you know, I mean, you know who it is, then they can just go down there and slap a piece of paper down, and the sheriff's department has to, you know, pretty much let them do whatever the fuck they want, you know, fuck their sister or whatever they want to do. So but here's the other side of that blade. The ATF, they cannot, I'm sorry, NGO is a non-governmental organization. That's different than what we're talking about. We are talking about executive independent agencies, which is a legally protected class of pseudo government that is like halfway between a private entity like an NGO and halfway between the government. They're not really the government, because in the United States, the government is, you know, supposed to be of, by, and for the people. And so any government that you have that is legitimate is something that you vote for. Okay. If you didn't know that, if you're not voting for them, they're fucking got added in after the fact. And that government that I just, you know, that description that I just gave, anything that falls into that, that is a huge fucking thing. Like, we're talking outside of the scope of non-government or of executive independent agencies. So that's another magnitude higher in the hierarchy. I'm talking about executive independent agencies because they have executive authority, right? Like they're in the executive branch. That's where they derive their authority. So you vote in the legal constitutional government, you vote for the president. Well, our presidents now are just basically a bunch of pussies that don't, they don't fucking do shit. They're fucking Pez dispensers with mouths. The 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 president, the president's cabinet, which is a bunch of people that control him, advise him who to fucking write down on a piece of paper that goes into these executive independency agencies, and then they appoint them. And there's usually like two tiers of middlemen. So he would like assign he would assign somebody to like an upper tier, and then that person would assign a bunch of other positions for executive agencies, right? Everybody else in there is just like, there is no, like, I don't even think there's a process. Like, I think it's just whoever's running the motherfucker just picks people to be in there. So you can imagine what their staff looks like in terms of its composition, right? Like, I don't have to go into that, right? You guys fucking get what I'm saying? It's significant. They all, now, here's the thing, there is a congressional law where they have to publish their fucking staff for the public, for public, for public browsing, like they have to make it available legally. So any of these agencies, like if there's some agency that you don't know about, you can look up the name. It's always a fucking acronym because they're idiots. And then you can go to their website and look up they're going to have an about me section, and they're going to have to list their staff. Sometimes they don't like to do that. So like the ATF doesn't list their staff. Which is illegal. And I've sent them fucking emails about it, telling them that they better get their shit together and list their fucking staff, but I don't think they've done it yet. So the executive independent agencies all are not elected. They have cross-jurisdictional authority with your actual real government from when this country was founded, that is designed to have a balance of powers so that one subversive element can't come in and just fucking take the whole motherfucker over, which is exactly what's happened. And they're doing it through shit like this. They're also doing it through grant programs. So the reason that your schools are all fucking communist is because after World War II, they had a huge private grant program through the banks to fucking take over all of education and consolidate it, and to take out a bunch of the books and switch them out. This got caught on by Congress in the 50s. This would be called the Cox investigation and the Reece investigation, REECE and COX. One of those senators fucking died during the investigation. They were investigating the influence of foundations, like which is a tax exempt, like foundations and shit, and the relationship to education, for altering education for communism, like to introduce communism. So this is like on historical record, and they had a fucking like investigative congressional, like a long ass, a full staff investigating the shit all over the United States, particularly for like Ford Foundation and shit like that. And this would have been in the 50s. And you can look it up. Surprise, surprise, they didn't fucking get anywhere with it. And their conclusion was that this is the conclusion. They got a conclusion and a recommendation to Congress. And then Congress was like, wow, that's really interesting. And then they didn't do anything about it. Their conclusion was that they're subversive. You can look up the text if somebody wants to type it in here. If somebody wants to type in the text of their thesis, conclusion, it's going to be something like we have determined that private organizations wield extreme power, and they have begun introducing, communism into the United States education system. Nobody gave a fuck, and this is how it went. Okay. So what I'm talking about is the seeding, SEED, like seeding. This is the seeding model that is used economically to initially subvert things that need to be subverted. So this is what the second phase of this, after that was like the 50s and 60s, and you had like JFK was in the 60s. You had all this shit going on. You had social operations destabilization with Martin Luther King and fucking the peace movement, the hippie movement. Like that's all fucking that's a social fucking program to just make people go bananas while they fucking move the fucking shell game around and nobody knows what the fuck's going on. That's what we're getting right now with all this Black Lives Matter and fucking Antifa. and the fucking fascist, movements and shit. This is all the same fucking thing. Half these dumb motherfuckers don't even, I guarantee you they don't even know what they're doing. I guarantee that some of these fascist fucking groups are like genuinely thinking that they're like, they're probably just getting like direct deposits into fucking accounts and shit. And they don't even know. They just think that their shit's a good idea. Like they're just paying people to keep them going to cause fucked up shit. And I don't know. It's really dumb that they get away with it. I don't know how it's possible. I guess we're the only thing dumber than the way they set up these operations is how dumb we are as people, because we don't even stop this shit. Nobody even gives a fuck. All right. So what I just described prior to that little psycho rant there is that I described the way that the United States education system was subverted. If you want to look into it, it would be called the Reece Committee and the Cox Committee. And it's a congressional investigation during the 50s. This would have been like during the Red Scare type shit in the United States for invasion of communism. And that's the only reason that I flew. Like if it wasn't for the Red Scare, they would never fucking get away with investigating this shit. And it was like pretty damning stuff. So that's Reece and Cox Committee. Let's see. Also during this time, during the Red Scare time, you have the like Los Alamos. You guys familiar with Los Alamos? It's like the nuke bomb and shit comes from there. So that's what I was alluding to earlier was FFRDCs. FFRDCs are a entirely independent entity in the United States government. Like they're not an NGO. They're not a fucking tax exempt organization. They're not a government agency. It's like a pseudo like weapons development agency. We got 48 of them in the United States. They've operated since World War II, and Los Alamos is like one of them, right? Like that's one of the facilities. And then they may change out the titles of the FFRDCs that are like running that shit, but it's always on rotation. So FFRDCs are, if you recall this, you might remember the Rosenbergs. Okay, so the Rosenbergs, if you don't know this, in the 1950s, what happened was the U.S. Army that was assigned to defend the Los Alamos nuclear bomb program, the fucking studs that were working there realized some shit was fishy, and they fucking grabbed these motherfuckers. And it was Ethel and what was her husband's name? Ethel, Ethel Rosenberg and whoever the fuck her dumb fuck husband was. And they were I'm trying to get into that, Gerald. So the Rosenbergs, because there was a Red Scare situation going on with China, which would have become incredibly, became incredibly elevated after World War II with the USSR, right? Like people figuring out like, oh shit, there's this giant communist beast in Europe. The Rosenbergs got arrested by the military, and then because they were being held by the military, and because it was still early, this is like the 1950s and shit, and then the Red Scare stuff was going on. The U.S. government at the time wasn't 100% like subverted and corrupt, so like they still kind of gave a fuck about the country a little bit, right? So it was like the world government entity that was in the United States couldn't go full retard on just like, oh, we'll just Epstein them and like just pull them out of the country and there's no justice and like nothing happened. Don't worry about it. Like fuck off. That's what they do now. They couldn't do that back in the 50s. Okay. So when motherfucking Rosenbergs get popped for fucking stealing nuke secrets out of the Los Alamos, what the international media does is they LARP them as communists. Right. And that's like the big thing about like contrast, right? Like you take two ideas, like philosophical ideas or sociological ideas like communism and capitalism, which are both fake, by the way. I'm not going to get into capitalism because you'll misunderstand if you don't know what I'm talking about. You think I'm fucking communist. It's not what I'm saying. The communist is used as a veil to describe to obfuscate what is really going on here. Okay, so when the Rosenbergs are going on trial, they kind of realize the government, the secret government or whatever you want to call it, kind of realizes like, we're not going to get them out of this one. So let's execute them. So they fucking, they legally, they push the execution through and they get executed. The fucking nuke secrets that they were transferring were going to USSR. So the way that the media portrays it is that this is a communist issue with, communists infiltrating the United States and getting nuke secrets and transferring to USSR. That's not what was happening, okay? You guys tracking here? The Rosenbergs have nothing to do with fucking communism. These are Jews transferring fucking nuke secrets to Jews in the USSR, and maybe they're not even, I don't even know if they're going direct to USSR or if that's just like a cover story so that people don't figure out about it. So they think about communism. They don't think about the fact that, like, oh wait, all these people are Jews that are involved here. Okay. So then they fucking transfer they're transferring all this shit to Israel. So like Israel, this is how Israel's beginning to get news. All right. And the entire Red Scare, like when they were doing all of the communist investigations in Congress and shit, like all of the media was doing, like the way that the media portrays that nowadays is like it was just this terrifying, oppressive, supremacist investigation. What was really going on was that like there were a couple of senators that had a pretty good idea that these are just a bunch of Jews LARPing as communists, and the media fucking got a whiff of that, and they were fucking terrified that the American public was going to figure out that these are a bunch of Jews fucking stealing nuke secrets from the United States, particularly after World War II when they hadn't ramped up the Holocaust propaganda, right? So this is where like, they almost fucking blew the lid off of it, right? So if you ever watch those hearings, you can fucking feel it in the air from years past. You can taste it, like how fucking like neurotically paranoid the fucking media is when they're covering this shit. Like they were fucking sweating hard. So that's the Rosenbergs for you, okay? If you didn't fucking know that. So since then, you've had, I mean, I'm not even going to get into like Vietnam. Fuck. All right. And so what, I'm not going to talk about Vietnam. What I am going to talk about is JFK. So JFK got killed because he fucking knew about this shit that I'm talking about. Like this post Rosenberg fucking secret Jews LARPing as USSR, LARPing as communists. And that's why you had the Red Scare. So the Red Scare was there because it was a media production to make the American public always think about communism and never fucking even think that these are all fucking Jews, right? And so that JFK knew about this. Do you know the way that the JFK knew about this? JFK knew about this shit because the Kennedy line, and particularly JFK, like JFK had an advisor whose name was he had this advisor that was the Woodbury Soap Company owner who used to be a Zionist Jew, and who like flipped his wig and started like blowing the whistle on all this shit since Woodrow Wilson. So this Zionist Jew that I'm talking about, his name is Benjamin Friedman. So Benjamin Friedman was on the finance committee for Woodrow Wilson. And that would be along with Rolla Wells, who is the treasurer. Rolla Wells is like the first secretary of the Federal Reserve for St. Louis, Missouri. Like, have you ever heard of like Rolla, Missouri? That's like the similar name. It's like Rolla Wells is the first governor for the Federal Reserve in St. Louis, Missouri. Okay, so Benjamin Friedman was on the finance committee. Underneath, he was a subordinate to Rolla Wells, and so he saw all the fucking shit going on with Henry Morgenthau, and which is a whole nother, like Henry Morgenthau Jr. is a whole nother ball wax. We're not fucking getting into that. It's fucked up shit. It has to do with the Armenian genocide. So Benjamin Friedman learned about all this shit and then flipped. But he was a part of it at first, and he gave up his company. He had like a successful soap company in the United States in the beginning of the 20th century, and he fucking trashed it to like blow the whistle, and he didn't get very far. I'll tell you that much. He advised the Kennedy, so he advised like Kennedy Sr., and then he also continued to advise Kennedy, JFK, and so like JFK was in office, and I'm sure that you had Benjamin Friedman, this neurotic, paranoid Jew that was trying to blow the whistle on world government, was like banging down his door every day, like, JFK, you gotta wake the fuck up. Like, this shit is serious. And JFK was like, fuck, okay, hang on, I just became president. All right. So JFK gives his secret society speech in 1961. They were trying to start Vietnam in here to get everybody's mind off of the previous Red Scare era, right? Like that's what all the shit. Like first they did Red Scare, everybody be scared of the USSR, and then it started like fade out, and they were like, well, we can't let the fucking USSR Red Scare fade away because then everybody will realize this is all Jews. And so then they were like, well, let's make a war, and of course you have the Korean War in there too, right? During this whole time, like in the 50s. But for JFK, because JFK was like had fucking Ben Friedman directly advising him, I'm sure that whoever the Zionist Jews are, or whatever Jews, it doesn't even have to be Zionists really. It's just whoever's fucking by their action, right? So whoever was like in the White House is already compromised at this point. So JFK has got Ben Friedman probably fucking doing cartwheels going in there to advise him to like spill the beans on shit all the time. And whoever's in the White House is just like fucking like, is this fucking Jew gonna fuck us? Like they're just like paranoid as shit that he's gonna blow this shit. So so then you get the initial advisory military command in Vietnam before like it goes full blown. The JFK they had a terrible battle. I can't remember what the battle's name is, but like in the early 60s, the advisors with the South Vietnamese had like a horrible fucking battle with like big losses. And then they were like, oh shit, we're going to get out of this, right? Like, or they give the bad report, and then JFK is like, fuck this, we're getting out of Vietnam. So he basically says that to Walter Cronkite, and this would have been like, I can't remember the year, it's either 1963 or 1964. This is not the time when Walter Cronkite goes on TV and says like, we have lost the war. That they reference that in Full Metal Jacket, the movie. Like even Walter Cronkite says the war is now unwinnable. That's not what I'm talking about. This is a prior time before the U.S. is in full scale engagement with Vietnam. JFK is on record telling fucking Walter Cronkite, I'm just citing this so you can, track along. JFK tells Walter Cronkite that it's not America's war, and these are heavy losses, and the fucking Vietnamese need to win it. So we're not going to do it. That's what he says. Okay. So after he says this is like, so he's already done his secret society speech, 61, 63, 64. He starts he also has Bay of Pigs, right? So it's a bunch of failures, a bunch of military failures, and he doesn't have a lot of control. And he's got Ben Friedman over there back at home telling him like, hey, you need to watch the fuck out. Ben Friedman made a video. It's on YouTube. It's very long, but it's in 1961. So JFK isn't dead yet. So apparently, essentially the video that he made is like a long drawn out story from his perspective that tells a lot of the shit that I'm saying about like World War II, like the history of World War II and the Germans. I agree with most of it, not all of it, but like his chronological facts, I agree with somewhat. I think he's missing some pretty fucking big things that would help his argument. But he gives this video, Ben Friedman gives the video, or the speech, it's a recorded speech. The video is on YouTube, but he gives it in 1961. So he's basically saying like, we got to go all in behind JFK. The reason he's saying this is because he's over there and JFK's letting him in the White House and letting him fucking spew this wild shit into his ear, and JFK's fucking listening. If you didn't know it, Good Morning America or whatever it is, CBS, in the last couple of years released JFK's diary, and it was very controversial because JFK started writing diary entries talking about how he thought like Hitler was pretty cool, basically, right? He basically said like Hitler, as time goes on, people stop hating Hitler and they'll start to think he's like a legend. That's like what he's like writing about in his diary. So like, the mainstream media had to publish this when his diary got sold and went public. This was in the past I don't remember, like in the past 6 years probably, right? So they had to like cover this on morning television, and like they did not want to do it. I'll tell you that. Like it was it's all pretty awkward. But what I'm trying to say is that the reason that JFK has this perspective is entirely because of Benjamin Friedman. Because Benjamin Friedman worked with the Zionist Jews from Woodrow. Ben Friedman was trying to fucking tickle in the ear of every president since fucking Woodrow Wilson because he was so motivated from figuring out what the fuck was going on and then like losing heart and being like, this is not right, and then fucking flipping out. Okay, and then he's trying to get into every fucking White House to advise them, and some of these guys in the White House are like already pieces of shit. So it's like, fuck, there's Ben Friedman, get him the fuck out of here. This is what happened. So, like that's how JFK gave the Secret Society speech because he knew the shit from Ben Friedman. Okay, so like as soon as he gives the Secret Society speech and the Jews in the White House are like, oh, Ben Friedman's going there, they know what the fuck's going on, right? And then as soon as JFK is trying to cancel the Vietnam War, this is why he gets fucking assassinated. Okay, so JFK gets assassinated so that we can have a Vietnam War because they need it because they can't let the fucking batshit insane social engineering program they got going on with the Red Scare go away. So they have to have more communist fucking wars just to buy the time so they can move money around, build up the USSR, build up Israel. Israel is also fighting wars. You have the 1967 war. So there's just like, it's all just like buying time so that the Americans don't lose trust in the government. That's what all these wars are about. Like that's what Korea and Vietnam are like. They're just stagnating. Like they're just dragging fucking feet by using American lives to create the appearance of a communist U.S. Western world versus communism. But that's not even what's going on. I've already told you that communism is 100% entirely produced by Western society financially. Like from Europe and the United States, they fucking directly built the USSR. Like every fucking factory, every fucking machine, just a fucking hemorrhaging black hole. And there are plenty of fucking documents to prove what I'm saying. And if you want to check it out, there's a consolidated version of this that is in a book called Soviet Economic Development and the History in Western Technology, the History of Soviet Economic Development and Western Technology. And it is a 3-part volume that covers from the founding of USSR all the way up until the 60s into like MIRV missiles and shit, like MIRV missiles with fucking bearings and shit, and like where the fucking bearings are coming from, where the fucking centrifuge, the aluminum for fucking centrifuges and shit are coming from. Like it's just a bunch of hand receipts all collected by a man named, the guy's name is Sutton. It's Antony Sutton, like Antony Sutton. Antony Sutton was a fellow, like a study fellow, like a academic at Hoover Institution. The Hoover Institution, we already talked about Hoover, right? You guys remember that? Like, hopefully we don't have that small brains, short memory, but it's probably in one ear and out of the other. Hoover was the president of the United States, okay? And after the war, like after World War II, he wasn't the president during World War II. He was the president prior to World War II. After World War II, because he was such a fucking shithead and direct fucking bag boy for the Rothschilds, they fucking sent him out into Europe, and then he got command, like over elements of the U.S. Army, to send them out, to send officers of no less, because he's not going to send fucking enlisted guys to go do this, because they're going to be like fucking rolling cigarettes out of the fucking documents and shit and being like, why the fuck do we have to do this? So he has to send out officers that want to get, promoted all over Europe to confiscate all the documents that show how the USSR got built by America, because this was like, or by America and Europe, right? Yeah, warehouse documents. That warehouse, they put a little sign on it and call it the Hoover Institution, okay? The wing that all these documents are in is like a sealed wing. And fucking Antony Sutton went there as like a throwaway from academia. And they were like, here, Antony, go over here in this dark hole and then just disappear. Like, whatever, we'll send you a paycheck. Antony Sutton, like, figured out this wing and went back there and just spent like decades studying these fucking documents. I mean, we're talking like tens of thousands of tons of paper, okay? And this dude is just like back there with a fucking candle or a flashlight or whatever he has, just like probably peeking out the door like, hopefully nobody knows what's going on. Like if they came in here, they probably wouldn't know anyway because they're fucking retarded. So like, I'm just going to fucking live in here now and just fucking figure out what the fuck is going on. So Antony Sutton spent decades studying these documents, and then he started releasing books. His 3-book volume that's called, the History of Soviet Economic Development and Western Technology is a 3-volume set covering the entire, up until that point, the 60s, I think was when he's writing this shit. It covers all of that shit. And then he also started releasing some like other books, which get pretty weird. But this stuff is like the 3-book volume set is like, you know, I mean, it's like fucking an evidence. It's like an evidence, like a fucking discovery log. You know what I mean? Like it's not. This is like direct shit that you can't refute. It's got like receipts in it. It's got fucking like chronological order and shit. Like he did a really good job. So anybody that ever tells you, that the United States and the banking industry didn't just like directly build the USSR is a fucking idiot, and they don't know what they're talking about. And if you reference these books, it fucking shows. I mean, it's already known. Like people know it. Like the actual money injection, like direct money injection through the banks, is already known. Aside from this is like showing like this shows in detail how absurd it is. Like, you know, like they were making components for stuff that was killing American soldiers in Vietnam. You get what I'm saying? Like we were fighting in Vietnam, we were fighting through the fucking Chinese military supply and the fucking Russian military supply. We were fighting the VC. Okay, the VC were getting the shit that especially they were getting from USSR was entirely installed and continued operation and funded and designed. Like I'm talking like technical patents. I'm talking like the engineers that are like designing shit for the USSR. I'm talking like everything is not for fucking it's not, they didn't come up with it. It's from Western technology, like directly injections. Okay. All right. That's kind of a big deal. You want to know that. That kind of, changes your world picture once you know that. Okay. So that out of the way, we're going back to Vietnam War. The reason that the Korea War and Vietnam War happened is because they wanted to hide that Jews are involved in this. They wanted to continue they were manipulating the governments of the world, even the USSR. The USSR didn't even fucking figure this out. The USSR was like ultra fucking super secret and compartmentalized, and the dumb goys that they had in there had no fucking clue. It's only like the leaders that know this shit. And they were gaming both sides, but in the United States through economics, like controlled economics and compartmentalization, which they came out with the intelligence entities that produced from World War II, post-World War II, like out of the OSS, right? And then you had explosion of independent executive agencies, and then now we're in like Vietnam, right? And everybody that's in Vietnam knows how fucked up Vietnam was. Like Vietnam and Laos, just all fucked up and retarded. Eugene Stoner, that invented the AR-15, he had fucking choice words to say about the procurement program for like the fucking the contract for the fucking light machine gun for Vietnam to replace the M60. He tried to compete for it. He lost to the SAW, a long time later. But he would talk, like he knows about all this shit, Yeah, Sullivan and Stoner. Okay, so then you get, when you get the Berlin Wall falling, that's about moving Jews back into that's like just like ending communism. Like, okay, this shit's over. Like, we don't need to do this anymore. And they're sending all the Jews to Israel. Okay. 80s, you get all the South American civil wars, right? Trying to fuck with South America. There's a shitload of them. That's like, and you get like Iran Contra and shit like that, So now we're getting into like the 90s, 80s, 90s, 2000s hedonist era that we're in now, like this crazy bonkers shit that's going on now. This is like the end of the cycle. So all these FFRDCs and executive independent agencies that I told you, like if you work at a police department, if you're a PD, if we got LEOs in here, like, or Stadies, like the fucking, like, how it is when the fucking State Department shows up or when feds show up, like everybody just pulls down their fucking pants. Okay. That's the reason why that is because your brass is getting fucking comped by, through fucking lawful, government programs to seed every fucking department in the United States and every municipal, like it's the municipal authorities too. It's like the fucking city council and shit. Like this is everywhere in the United States. Okay. I'm not talking about direct bribes where they're seeing like cash to somebody's pocket in their house. We're talking about like all the entities since 9/11 have restructured themselves and they now survive off of like grants. Basically, they're basically like in a mid transition between dying off from their previous financial energy to becoming 100% grant based. And we're at like midpoint of that right now. But a part of that, they have to be compliant with the federal regulation for the programs, which involves subordination. Okay, this is the reason that they're able to pull off this COVID-19 mass serology surveillance that's going on right now, because every fucking hospital has no balls and they can't do anything. They have to do what they say because they're all on the fucking government tit, because this happened. This is what 9/11 was about. So if you want to know why 9/11 happened, number one, I already showed you last night. If you want to know why 9/11 happened, it happened to finish the process of top-down consolidation in the United States, and it was like the excuse. It was like war on terror. We got fucking Muslims everywhere blowing everything up. So fucking, give me your kid and your wife. This is like fucking give me your soul. This is what 9/11 is about. Okay, and taking out the government, through economic stimulation and regulatory control. What we are seeing right now is the first operational outcome of that whole process. So 9/11 was like a long process up until now to get all that shit in order, like ducks in a row. Right now, we are seeing the very first, like COVID-19 is the very first executive action of the purpose of this program. It is going to get way worse, okay? And this is what I'm trying to spread. This is the information that I'm trying to spread to people that are patriots, that actually care about the United States, both law enforcement and military. And I'm trying to warn you that you're about to be launched into World War III, and the purpose of it is to kill as many of us as they can that are military-aged males with rifles that don't know what the fuck is going on, because we don't know any better. And we love our country. And so they're trying to send us to fucking China and start a war with China. So we go over there, and while we're there, we're going to lose. And the reason that we're going to lose isn't because we're weak. It's the reason that we're going to, although we are in another way, but the reason that we're going to lose is because you can't win, because you're not going to be allowed to win, because they're going to leak any intelligence that you have that's actually good, and then you're going to be fucked. So this is the message that I'm trying to get out there. I hope that everybody understands this. Okay, these independent executive agencies, the reason that the ATF covers guns like as a topic, like in a crime that like allows them to go in there for jurisdiction, is because it's not because it's their jurisdiction. It's because that's the crossover data point for them to come take over the fucking government, right? Like in their domain. All like just because, so if you're a sheriff's department and you have a fucking homicide and you recover a gun and you're going through like NICS tracing, right? Which is what you always do for homicide. Number one, it's retarded. The gun control is retarded. Doesn't make any sense. Just because you find a gun doesn't mean, I'm not going to get that. But when you find out, when you get a homicide and you pull a gun, okay? And then like just because you pull a gun doesn't mean the ATF's going to show up, right? So it doesn't necessitate that they exercise the handling of that just because there's a fire, right? You should understand this is a distinction between the function of constitutional government and a legal foreign government that is here subverting the United States. So the ATF can pick and choose when the fuck they come there, and nobody's voting for any rules or anything. They're just doing their own thing, okay? And it just looks like the people there don't know that. The people that work at ATF have no fucking idea that this is going on. They're just taking a paycheck. They got no fucking clue. Like they could be working at a Hardee's and they wouldn't know the difference. It's just a job. The brass at ATF is fucking subversive. They're fucking turds. So the reason that they can just pick and choose whenever they do it, and I gave the analogy of or the example of if you recovered a gun at a crime scene, then you're probably not just going to have an ATF show up just because you found a fucking gun. If you're Chicago PD and you're working fucking 20 homicides in an afternoon after lunch, then if you recover a gun, ATF's not going to show up, right? But you're going to throw it through NICS tracing. But if you find like something that the news picks up on as high profile, you better bet your fucking ass the ATF is showing up. Like if you have the news runs a story about like assault weapons, and then you have a rifle that you recovered, and they ran the story, like you better bet your fucking ass the ATF's showing up, right? Now, this is what I'm saying. You need to understand that this is the distinction. This is like one of the ways that you can identify subversive government from the constitutional government. Okay. Because every single executive independent agency functions in the same way as this example that I've just given of ATF. They have crossover jurisdictional authority into the constitutional government. What does that mean? What I'm trying to tell you is that there is a foreign government that is inside of the United States that is attached to our money supply and put us into $20 trillion. They're now bigger than the constitutional government, and they're slowly bleeding out the constitutional one, and they're just going to take over. And the final step in this, like the final transformation, like they can't go full retard right now and just start like whacking everybody because we got too many rifles in the United States. And so they're probably watching this video right now, fucking shitting themselves. But the reason, I'm just kidding. They probably don't even give a fuck. They're so fucking confident. The the reason that they can't go full retard is because we've all got fucking assault rifles, and machine guns and shit. And we got a shitload of fucking combat vets that are pretty fucking killer. You know what I mean? Like we know what the fuck we're doing. So like that's the reason they have to do. That's the reason they're trying to roll out this red flag law shit for confiscation and shit. And that's the reason that you're gonna go to China, because they want all of us to not know what's going on and think there's just a bunch of like the worst that can happen is there's a Black Lives Matter protest here and it like causes people to get upset. And so we think that like shit's kind of stable but kind of uneven keel. But there's a big existential war in China, so we need to go fight there. So when this shit pops off, they're trying to send all you people over there to die, as many as you can. You're not going to lose China; you still win because they need to take over China, and they can't do it right now. So I guess there's enough shot there. Is that like you will still be able to have a little country afterwards. It's not going to fucking be the United States, okay? And while you're gone fighting China, they're going to finish taking this shit over, just like they did a phase with 9/11. They use 9/11 as a catastrophic event to justify it all. There's going to be a much bigger, much more drastic change in the United States with the war on China. So my message, all this shit that I'm doing, is I'm trying to make people understand this because it's complicated as fuck. But once you understand it, it's not. But you can see it. You just open your eyes, you see it. If you understand this video and you're watching this, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're never fucking going to sleep again. Like you're fucking here now. Welcome to the Dugan Army. Like good luck. Like you're gonna be up all night all the time now. Okay. Yeah, Canada is the same thing. So if we should probably a good thing to do after this shit gets done will be to roll up Canada in the United States because they want to fucking be here anyway, and they got a bunch of fucking subversive shit going over there anyway. We should probably connect the two, right? And we're gonna. By the way, there's a very good chance we're gonna have to defend from South America because right now they're getting economic stimulation from central banks. All the countries that are south of us are getting economic stimulation from central banks. Number one. Number two. If you haven't noticed, the media has been like crying about migrants and shit that they're fucking running in here with NGOs on a fucking socialist stabilization program. And the media is like whining about it and shit. Like, why won't you let your country get destroyed? It's completely irrational and illogical. You can't, I mean, I don't even know how these people would even like define a country on a piece of paper if they tried. But if they did try, they're gonna have a pretty fucking hard time doing it because they're gonna have to justify why they want like the entire world to come fucking live in the United States. So anyway, there's a threat from South America because the media is running a long-term campaign over the last 10 years. A lot of shit got kicked off in 2012, and that's because the Smith-Mundt Act got revamped to 2012, which is a authorization to run legal propaganda in the United States. So like they got full fucking mainline fucking commie propaganda disguised as regular ass news. Started it in 2012. You don't remember 2012? It started with Trayvon Martin and Sandy Hook. Okay, I'm trying to fucking explain to you what's going on here. Okay, so. It's a big fucking cookie to bite. Okay, I'm trying to do the best I can. I'm getting a little out of order here, but it's less shit to remember. So, listen up. So they got the Smith-Mundt Act rolls out, and that's where you get all this propaganda. That's where we are now. We're like now into wacky, crazy land on the media. Like nothing even makes fucking sense. I'm not sure if you noticed, but if you're watching the news and you're fucking like, this is all good. I don't know. You might want to like go take some lithium or something. You fucking wacko, because everything's fucking batshit. So if you don't know that, you need to come to that realization. uh, the fucking what else? What else? The threat from Mexico, or not? Yeah, Mexico, sure, but all the states. The media has done a consolidated program over the past 10 years to paint the United States as Nazi Germany, essentially. Like we are the big imperial bad guys right now, even though nobody in America, believe it or not, wanted to make any of these fucking decisions that we've done. All that anybody in the United States has done, all that American citizens have done, is exactly what the fuck they're told. Okay? They've done exactly what they're told, and we've all been good boys. I am telling you now, anybody that's watching this video, you might want to start thinking about ways. You might want to stop listening to the people that are telling you what to do. And you might want to think for yourself, okay? Because you don't have much time. All right? I hope that you understand that. The threat from South America is real, and they're trying to keep it under wraps right now, but they're throwing guns and money in there. That's why you got so much crazy cartel action. And that is, they're working with the government directly now, and getting involved with the evangelical Christians down there, like Brazil and shit. You know, like if you didn't know that, the current government of Brazil is like an evangelical Christian government. They're over there directly stimulating them, and in the media, they're making us look like we fucking hate South America and that there's a division between us and South America. Like we just like fuck them. It's not that we're like fuck them. It's like, don't send us all your fucking people. Like you are a country, you have a name, you know, like your country's name is Guatemala. It starts with a G. Like if you want to have a country, you might want some fucking people that live there too, instead of fucking send them all over here into California, you dumbass. You know, like that is the only problem, right? We have no problem with fucking South America being South America. We have problems with South America fucking coming over here and shitting on our lawn, you know? So you that is what's going on. So because they paint us as the bad guy in South America, they are not doing very well either. So they there's an artificial animosity that's been built up. And the reason for that is because when we are weakened by this war with China, they're going to fucking send a coalition to South America, most likely, up here to fucking steal land, like either Texas or something. And I know that you guys are probably watching this now and you're like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. Like, just wait until after the Chinese war. Like, after you fucking lost like 20% of your fucking males, and then they send like hands across South America, up fucking Mexico, and then they all have a grudge because they think that, you know, they're like, well, it was our turn to be in California and eat burritos, you know, or whatever the fuck they want to do. They're going to come up here with a fucking grudge, and they're just going to fucking take whatever they want. And they're going to fucking let them because they don't give a shit. Because you know why? Because South Americans are not going to fucking fight world government. The only people that are going to fight world government are you dumbasses. You get what I'm saying? Like, do you understand? Are you starting to fucking see a picture here? Yeah, look, don't get wrapped down in the weeds. I'm trying to give you a broad overview. This is my message. This is what all these videos are for. I love the United States. I love you. I do not want you to die, and I do not want your family to die, and I want you to have a future. Please help me spread these videos and get them to fucking competent military and law enforcement and fucking senators and fucking representatives. Everybody needs to see this shit. I am speaking directly from my heart and my brain. I did a little better job this time. It's a little more consolidated because I'm not drunk. I typically do these videos when I'm drunk because I'm just like trying to fucking like, how the fuck do I tell people this? It's way bigger than this. I'm not going to go into it because this is like a good primer for anybody that wants to see a consolidated version. Okay. We're going to do a podcast tomorrow or a live stream tomorrow, and I might try to get into other details. Please help me disseminate this information to people that are motivated and want to make a difference in the United States and help people, and start fucking getting your shit ready because shit is going to fucking go wild. I'm not going to do it. This needs to be decentralized. So do not contact me and like, you know, don't send me an email about like linking up or anything like that. Like, no, that's not happening. This needs to be decentralized because if it's not, then everybody's going to die. So like, if I die, you guys can just roll with it. You already have a bunch of fucking information here, right? So Yeah, it needs to be, everybody needs to have the information so they can make the best judgment for their community wherever they're at and be able to identify world government. Like it's going to be through economics, and this information will help you make sense of the battlefield here that's coming up. Okay. I hope that this is enough to help you get started. We're gonna do a live stream tomorrow. I don't even know what the fuck we're gonna talk about because half this shit I was gonna talk about tomorrow. But we'll bring in some documents and stuff. We'll take a look at some interesting things and talk about them. Okay. I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you for listening. Long live the Republic. I love you.